Parasha, meaning portion. Torah is the instruction. Vayera. Our parasha today in our Torah is Genesis chapter 18, verses 1:22 to 24. And Abba Yahweh appeared unto him in the grove of Mamre, while he was sitting at the door of the tent at the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood near him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the door of the tent, and bowed himself to the ground. And he said, My Lord, Abba, if now I have found favor in thy sight, in your eyes, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourself under the tree. And I will fetch morsel and bread, and comfort your heart. After that you may pass on, since you have once passed by your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast spoken. And Abram hastened into the tent unto Sarah and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. And he took cream and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before Terah. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. Verse 9. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said to him, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee at this time next year, and lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it at the door of the tent, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, and they were stricken in years, and it had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. And therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have a pleasure, my Lord, being old? And Adonai, Yahweh, said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of surety bear a child, since I am old? Is anything too hard for Yahweh? At that time appointed, I will return unto thee at this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. But he said, Nay, indeed, thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Yahweh said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about doing? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Verse 19, For I know him, that he will command his children to the household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh, to do righteousness and justice, in order that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he had spoken concerning him. And Yahweh said, Because the cry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sins is very grievous, I will go down now and see if they have done according to the cry against them, which is come under the destruction shall come upon them. If not, I will know it. Verse 22. And the men turned their faces from there and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before Yahweh. Abraham drew near and he said, Wilt thou then destroy the righteous, also the wicked? Peradventure, there are 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous that are therein? Far be it from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be and the wicked. Far be this thee, shall judge all the earth, not exercise justice? 26. And Yahweh said, If I find Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake. Then Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me and speak unto Yahweh, although I'm but a dust and ashes. Peradventure, there will lack 50, and of 50 righteous, wilt thou then destroy the city, lack of these 5? And he said, I will not destroy if I find there 45. And he said yet again unto him and said, Peradventure, there will be found 40. And he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, Oh, let not Yahweh be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure, there will be found 30. And he said, I will not do it, if I find there 30. And he said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto Yahweh. Peradventure, there will found there 20. And he said, I will not destroy for the sake of 20. And he said, Oh, let not Yahweh be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure, there will be found there 10. And he said, I will not destroy for the sake of 10. Then Yahweh went away, and he had finished speaking. When he finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19. And the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when Lot saw, he rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face to the ground. And he said, Behold now, Yahweh, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and I will wash your feet, and you can rise up early and go your way. And he said, Nay, but we will not abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they eat. Verse 4. And before they had laid down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and the young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men who came and to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out to them at the entrance of the house, and shut the door after him. And he said, I pray you, my brethren, do not act wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters who have not known man. Let me, I pray, bring them out to you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. only on these men do nothing, since they have once come under the shadow of my roof. Verse 9. And they said, stand back. And they said, this one man came into sojourn, and he will needs be judged. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sorely upon men, Lot, and they came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot to them into the house, and the door they locked. And the men that were in the entrance of the house, they smote with blindness, both small and great, so that they worried themselves to find the entrance. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides a son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring out of this space. For we will destroy this place, because the cry against them is waxed great before the face of Yahweh. And the Lord hath sent us to destroy them. And Lot went out and spoke unto the sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, and said, arise, get yourselves out of this place, for Yahweh will destroy this city. But he seemed as one of the jested in the eyes of his sons-in-law. And as the morning dawn arose, the angels urged Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters that are here, lest thou be consumed for the iniquity of the city. And while he yet lingered, the man laid hold on his hand, and the hand of his wife, and the hand of his 2 daughters, and because the Lord desired to spare him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that they said, escape thy life, look not behind thee, neither they stay in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy eyes, and thou hast magnified kindness which thou hast showed unto me, and saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest evil overtake me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee thereunto, and it is little. Oh, let me, I pray thee, escape thither, as it but a little, but my life may be saved. And he said unto him, see, I have favored thee concerning the things, and also I will not overthrow this city of which thou hast spoken. Verse 22. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou hast come thither. Therefore was the name of the city called Zoar. The sun rose over the earth, and Lot entered into Zoar. And Yahweh rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire, and from Yahweh out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham get up early in the morning to the place where he had stood before Yahweh. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land and the plain, beheld, and lo, smoke went up from the earth, and smoke of furnace. And it came to pass, when Yahweh Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain, that Abba Yahweh remembered Abraham and sent Lot away out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. And let and Lot went out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his two daughters with him. And he feared to dwell to Zoar, and he dwelt in the cave, he and his two daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the country to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, and may we preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she laid, nor when she arose. When it came to pass on the morrow, that first morning, said to the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we might preserve the seed of our father. And that they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. When both the daughters of Lot became with child by their father, and the firstborn bore a son, and called his name Moab, the same as is the father of Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ami, the same thereafter children of Ammon unto this day. Chapter 20, Genesis, Bereshit. And Abraham journeyed from there toward south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said to Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech the king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But Yahweh came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Behold, thou shalt die for the sake of the woman whom thou hast taken, and he is man's wife. But Abimelech had not came near to her, and said, Yahweh, wilt thou then slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto thee, She is my sister? And she, even she herself, said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. Verse 6, And Yahweh said unto him in a dream, Yea, I also well know that thou hast done this in integrity of thy heart. Therefore I did also withhold thee from sinning against me. For this cause I suffered thee not to touch her. Verse 7, Now restore man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for thee, thou mayest live. And if thou restore her not, thou know thee that thou shalt surely die, and thou and all that are thine. And Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all the servants, and told all these things in their hearing. And the men were greatly afraid. When Abimelech called Abraham, and said unto him, What hast thou done unto us? And in what have I offended thee? What thou hast brought on me, and on my kingdom, a great sin? Didst not ought not to be done thou done unto me. Verse 10, And Abimelech said unto Abraham, Which soweth thee? And thou didst thee these things? And Abraham said, Because I thought, surely there is no fear in Abba Yehovah in this place, and they will slay me for the sake of my wife. And yet, indeed, she is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not my daughter, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass when Yahweh caused me to wander from my father's house, and I said unto her, This is thy kindness when thou shalt show unto me, and every place whither we shall come, say that he is my brother. Verse 14, And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servant and women servant and gave them unto Abraham and restored them to him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee, dwell there. It is pleasing in thy eyes. And Sarah, he said, Behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, this is to be thee a covering of the eyes unto all that are with thee, and with all others thou canst thus justify thyself. And Abraham prayed unto Yahweh, and Yahweh healed Abimelech and his wife and his maid servant, so that they could bear children. For Yahweh had fast closed up every womb of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Verse chapter 21. And Abba Yehovah visited Sarah as he said, and Abba Yehovah said to Sarah as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived and bore unto Abram a son in his old age, an appointed time in which Yahweh had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name that his son may born unto him. Sarah bore him Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac at the 8 days old, and Abba Yehovah had commanded him. And Abraham also 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, Yahweh had made me joy. Whoever heareth it will laugh concerning me. And he said, we would have said this to Abraham, that Sarai would have given a child a suck, yet I have borne a son at this old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw that the son of Hagar, Egyptian, whom she was born unto Abraham mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, and the son of this bondwoman shall not be their son with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And Yahweh said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy eyes because of the lad, and because thy bondwoman, in all that Sarah may say unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also in the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it out on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered astray in the wilderness of Beersheba. And when the water was spent from a bottle also, She cast the child under one of the shrubs, and she went and seated himself down of some distance, a good way off, about a bow shot, for he said, I cannot look on what the child dieth, so that he sat in a distance and lifted up her voice and wept. And Yahweh heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar out of heaven, and he said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for Yahweh had heard the voice of the lad that there is where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and lay hold of him with thy hands, for I will make him a great nation. And Yahweh opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad a drink. And Abba Yahweh and Yahweh was with the lad, and he grew up and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt into the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass that time Abimelech and Pishkol, the chief captain of his host, spoke to Abram, saying, Yahweh is with thee in all thou dost. Now therefore swear unto me that here by Yahweh that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will answer. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of water which Abimelech's servant has violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I know not what had done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, nor have I heard of this except this day. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 lambs of the flock by themselves. Abimelech said unto Abraham, What these 7 lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 lambs shalt thou have take from my hand, that they may be witness unto me that I have dug this well. Wherefore he called the place Beersheba, because there they swore both of them. And thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. And Abimelech rose up in Pishol, the chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistine. And Abraham planted on the orchard in Beersheba, and called there in the name of Yahweh. In Yahweh, the Yahweh everlasting. And Abraham sojourned in the land of Philistines many days. Chapter 22. And it came to pass that these things that Abba Yahweh tempted Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham, he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, the only one whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and get into the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I told of thee. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled the asses, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac and his son, and he clave the wood as a burnt offering, and rose and went unto the place which Yahweh had told him. On the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto these young men, Abide ye here with us, and I and the lad will go yonder, and we will worship, and then come back again to you. And Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he looked at his hand with the fire and knife, and went both of them together. And Isaac spoke unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Behold, there is fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, Yahweh will provide himself the lamb and the burnt offering, my son. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which Yahweh has told them. And Abraham built there an altar, and he said, and the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar above the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of Yahweh called unto him out of the heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou least unto him, for now I know that thou fearest Yahweh, seeing that thou hast not withheld thy son and thy only one from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there was a ram that was afterward caught in the thickest of his thorn. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up as a burnt offering and instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Yahweh Yireh. As it is today, this called in the mount of Yahweh, it shall be seen. And the angel of Yahweh called unto Abraham the second time out of heaven, and said, Myself have I sworn, said Yahweh, since because thou hast done these things, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only one, that I will greatly bless thee, and I will exceedingly multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies, and thy seeds shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. And Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt in Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told to Abraham nothing. Behold, Milcah, she also had borne children unto Nachor thy brother, Uz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, Kesed, and Kazu, and Fildash, and Yildab, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begat Rebekah. These 8 did Milcah bear Nachor, and Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah. She also bore Tibak, and Gakam, and Tashka, and Malka. That is the Torah in Genesis 18 to 22, verse 24. Now we go to the Haftarah. Haftarah is found in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 to 37. The widow's oil. Chapter 4. The wife of the man from the company of the prophets cried to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered Yahweh. But now his creator is coming to take my two boys in his slave." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, tell me what to do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a little oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask your neighbors and empty jars. Don't ask for just you. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars as each is filled. Put it in one side." She shelved him and afterward shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her, "Bring me another one." And she replied, "There is not a jar left." And the oil stopped flowing. When she went and told the man of Yahweh and said, "Go, sell all the oil and pay your debt. You and your sons can live on what is left." Shulamite's son restored to life. One day Elisha was going to Shunem, and well-to-do woman was there who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, she stopped there to eat. She turned to her husband, "I know that this man often comes our way in the holy man of Yahweh. Let's make a small room on the roof and put a bed and a table and chair and lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us." One day when Elisha came, he went up into his room and lay there. And he said to his servant Gehazi, "Call the Shunammite." So she called and stood before him. Elisha said to him, "Tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now, what can be done for you? What can be done for you? We can we speak in your behalf for the king or the commander of the army?" She replied, "I have a home among my people." "What can be done for her?" Elisha asked. Gehazi said, "Well, he has no son, and her husband is old." When Elisha said, "Call her," so she called her, and she stood at the doorway. About this time next year, Elisha said, "You will hold the son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Don't mislead your servant, O Yahweh." But when man of Yahweh. But when the woman became pregnant the next year, about the same time, she gave birth to a son, just Elisha had told her. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. My head," she said to his father. His father told the servant, "Carry him to his mother." After that, the servant had lifted up and carried him to his mother, and the boy sat to the lap in the noon. Then she died. She wept up and laid him on the bed, and the man of Yahweh then shut the door and went out. She called her husband and said, "Please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of Yahweh quickly and return." "Why go to him today?" he asked. "Is it not a new moon or a Sabbath?" "It's all right," she said. She saddled on the donkey and said to her servant, Lead on. Don't slow down for me unless I tell you. She set out and came to the man of Yahweh at Mount Carmel. When she saw her in a distance, the man of Yahweh said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, there is the Shunammite." Ran to meet her and asked, "Are you all right? What is your husband's all right? Is your child all right?" "Everything is all right," she said. Even she reached the man of Yahweh at the mountain. She took hold as they speak. Gehazi came over and pushed her away. But the man pushed her push push her away, but the man of Yahweh said, "Leave her alone. She is in a bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why. Did I ask you for a son, my Lord?" And he said, "Didn't I tell you, don't raise my hope?" Elisha said to Gehazi, "Tuck your clothes into your belt. Take my staff in your hand and run. If you meet anyone, do not greet him, and if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face." But the child's mother said, "As surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, I will not leave you." So she got up and followed her. Gehazi went on her way and led to the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elijah and told him, "The boy has not awakened." So Elisha, asan na yan? So Elisha, Gehazi went ahead and the staff. And Elisha reached at the house there, and the boy lying dead on his couch. He wept, shut the door, and the two of them prayed to Yahweh. And he got on the bed and lay upon the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out of him, the boy's body grew warm, and Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room and got on the bed and stretched out upon him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Hallelujah. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite." And he said, when she came, he said, "Take your son." She came and fell at his feet and bowed to the ground, and she took her son and went out. So that is 2 Kings 37.